Mama, welcome to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Gibbs, and this podcast exists to help scholarly mamas like you to achieve your life and academic goals without sacrificing what matters most. Here, we're changing the overwhelm, juggle, struggle narrative around what it means to be a mama on an academic journey to one of empowerment, fulfillment, and purposeful success. So how do we successfully navigate these journeys? Well, first, we need the space to embrace this unique blend. Let's begin by saying yes to creating a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside, because that's when we truly become purposefully whole. So get ready for the most non-traditional, unconventional, and revolutionary approach to PhD motherhood, because one thing I have learned over my many years of experience on this journey is that if you want something different, you have to do something different. But you must be brave enough to think differently first. So, Mama, are you in? Fabulous! Let's begin. These are our journeys of becoming. Hey Mama, welcome back to the podcast. If this is your first time tuning in to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast, I want to personally welcome you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for spending this time listening and sharing this podcast. And if you do enjoy what you hear on this show, please do leave a helpful review at the end of the show. At the end of listening to this episode, just go on to your favorite podcasting app and leave a helpful review so that others may be able to find that, read that, and actually know how helpful this podcast has been to you. And it only takes a few minutes, probably not even minutes, more like seconds. So if you enjoy listening to the podcast, please do share your kind words in the comments, in the review area of your app. Okay, so I know it's the end of summer now. Everybody's getting ready for back to school. And in another episode coming up soon, I'm going to be sharing some tips for how you can prepare for this academic year. So if you are brand new to the PhD journey, scholarly mama journey, or you're a new mom who is in the middle of your PhD, then that's going to be an episode that you want to listen to and potentially even come back to, because I will be sharing some top tips for how you can prepare for this academic year and make the most of it as a scholarly mama. But in today's episode, as I said, I know it's end of summer. I know people are coming back from holidays. If you have been traveling for the summer, or you've been on vacation somewhere nice or somewhere familiar. But in today's episode, I really just wanted to share our recent experience of traveling with our kids on a family holiday. We went to Barbados, which is home sweet home. But I just wanted to share the experience of traveling with kids and share any tips that have helped us. Obviously, we're traveling with 3 kids, and I wanted to share with anyone who is making the most of leisure travel or even conference travel, and you've got to take your kids, you're traveling with little ones. This might be a helpful guide for you. It may be a helpful episode to come back to. Even if you've completed your trip, you may have another trip coming up, and you may find it helpful to tune back into this episode. So I'm going to focus mainly on leisure travel. But as I said, it could be that you're traveling for a conference or other work-related travel, PhD-related travel with kids as well. And again, I'll talk about that in a separate episode. But for now, I'm focusing more on leisure holiday traveling with kids. So first of all, I guess we need to kind of talk about the benefits of traveling for leisure during your PhD. We all talk about the importance of needing a break, taking a break from the stresses, the deadlines, all of it, the stress of managing all of it, the juggle struggle essentially. And of course, it can take a toll on our mental health. The stress builds up and it can even sadly lead to burnout. And so it's really important for those mental health benefits that you take a break. And I don't think breaks need to be elaborate. Personally, I think that you can find ways of incorporating simple self-care strategies into your daily schedule. But if you have the opportunity to change your scenery, then that, or should I say the power of that, really cannot be overstated and shouldn't be overlooked. That leisure travel will come with mental health benefits, the stress relief, being able to change scenery and just kind of reset your thoughts, and essentially in the longer term, prevent burnout because you've given your body a chance to revive itself, to reset before you face the next round of deadlines and, pressures, work-related pressures. Another benefit of taking a break and traveling, having a holiday is time to bond as a family, really strengthening those relationships away from the pressures of academic research, away from the pressures of deadlines and supervisor meetings and all of that. Like just taking a break and being able to really zoom in and focus on your family and really creating those bonds and those memories. And this is one of the really key benefits of taking that break and taking a trip as a family together. Of course, going new places, if you're going somewhere new, we went to Barbados, which is home, sweet home. But if you are going somewhere new, that can give you new insights that may indirectly, to be fair, benefit your research. So by broadening your perspectives, by seeing and experiencing something new, it may open your mind to new insights, new thoughts, new connections that you didn't see before in your research because your brain is rested. You're not tired, you're not overworked, you're not, heading for burnout. And then, of course, using travel to educate your kids and to teach them about the world, for them to learn about new cultures, for them to see something that's new for them. It may not necessarily be new for you, but it's opening their eyes to new experiences, and whether that be new places, new foods, new activities, new animals, new languages, wherever it is that you're going, you can use that as an opportunity for teachable moments for your kids. And to be fair, like your kids need a break as well. Like they need a change of scenery too. So even if this break is just jumping in the car and going away for the weekend, or jumping on a train and going away for the weekend, it's still a change of scenery for them as well. And kids are so easy to please. You just need to change things up a little bit. And for them, it's brand new. For them, it's stimulating, it's exciting. And they're doing it with people that they love and people that they feel safe with. And so they're allowed to just explore and enjoy themselves. Okay, so you have decided that you're going to go on this trip and you're ready to plan this new family getaway, right? So here are some tips for planning your family getaway when you are traveling with kids. So for me, I think I didn't do a whole lot of traveling during my PhD, but when I did, it was really important to time the trips well, utilizing academic breaks and holidays. So I didn't have to clash with any teaching commitments. I didn't have to clash with any data collection periods. And I really just planned it around my academic breaks and also the school holidays and public holidays, because when they're public holidays, it's likely that will coincide with school holidays as well. And so it just takes the pressure off trying to figure out, who should take time off when. Nope, none of that. Instead, this way, everybody knows we're taking that holiday during such and such time, and it's all easy to plan and organize that way as well. But on the other side of that coin, having said all that, one of the challenges that we often face as working parents, sadly, is that a lot of times traveling during those school holidays, traveling during those peak times tend to be the more expensive periods to travel. And so, you really want to be thinking about looking for deals, maybe, some kind of seasonal deal maybe on at that time, looking for deals on discounted tickets, discounted hotels, discounted restaurant deals, and really just exploring local destinations if possible to cut travel costs. You don't need to go across the other side of the world to enjoy yourself and experience something new. You can actually experience something new right near home. During my PhD, a lot of the traveling that we did was actually local destinations. Right here within the UK, we'd jump in the car and take the kids somewhere that we'd never been before and just have a short break. And that was enough to just reset my batteries, reset, their stimulated minds, and just get us all in a period of rest so that we can come back to the routine and pick up where we left off. So the other thing that I found really helpful was utilizing any discounts for attractions and accommodations. Quite often, I know certainly within the UK, and I'm assuming in other places as well, you may be able to get student deals as a PhD student. That comes in really handy when you are traveling with kids. And so utilizing those academic discounts, utilizing those discounts on hotels or accommodations or activities, days out with the kids, you can actually save some money that way as well. And so also, I think is really important when you are planning your family getaway when you're traveling with kids is really looking at family-friendly holidays. So family-friendly destinations that cater to both adults and child interests so that nobody's bored. Everybody's got something to do. We have been several places where this has been the case, and it's been so good for us as parents to be able to enjoy ourselves, but also for the kids to be able to be stimulated, and nobody is bored. That word, we all know, the dreaded word when the kids are on holiday. Oh, mommy, I'm bored. Oh, daddy, I'm bored. Well, when we go places where there's activities for everybody, nobody has to be bored. And then I also think it's really important to balance relaxation with stimulating activities for the family. So yes, you want to rest. And of course, we love to rest. That's the whole point of taking this holiday and traveling with the kids. But really juggling that with activities that are interesting and stimulating for everyone, as I mentioned, so that at the end of that, a good night's sleep, everybody's rested, nobody's bored, and everybody can make the absolute most of the time away. Really, really key. So these are all the things that you should be thinking about when you're planning for your family getaway. And so what are some of the things that have actually helped me when I have been traveling with my kids? So first of all, I think that the first practical tip when traveling with kids has to be when it comes to packing. Now, nobody likes packing. I definitely do not like packing, but I think that I've found a strategy that works and that makes it more doable and more tolerable. And the only thing I would say is if you're going to do this, start really early. But I have a list. I have a saved packing list that we wrote, we wrote that when our first son was a toddler, and he's a teenager now. So imagine how many years we've had that list. And all we have done is we have expanded it. So as we have had more kids, we've added to the list. So what we do is we have separated that list according to everybody in the family. So each person in our family has a dedicated space on this list. On this list, as I mentioned, we started it when our eldest son was a baby. And so at that time, there were a lot of baby related essentials like nappies or diapers, baby wipes and muslin cloths and all the little things that you may need for a young infant. So as he grew, we amended that list. But by the time we had our second son, we added those things back under his name so that when we're packing, we know we've got everything for son number 1, we've got everything for son number 2, and then obviously as we had our third son, we've got everything for son number 3, and we've got everything for the parents. And so that list has grown with us really, and we keep tweaking it, we keep changing it as kids get older, we take things off, we add things, and we've just saved that list. So every single time we are traveling, I print that list, and that's my packing list. I don't have to think from scratch. I give myself a bit of a head start in terms of packing because I don't have to try and remember all the things I need to pack or actually write a list in real time. The list is there, it's saved, and I just have to use it. And on that list, we have age-specific items. So comfort items for our little ones, or entertainment for little ones, or entertainment for the older ones. So again, it's about tailoring and adjusting that list, but at least you've got something to work with every time you're traveling with your kids. The other thing as well, in terms of packing and things that you need to remember to pack, things like laptops, chargers, all of that is on the list. So as I mentioned, on that list we've got the kids sections, but we've also got the sections for the parents. So things like chargers and laptop will be on there. Also, if for any reason you're going to be away for a prolonged period and you've got to take work things with you or PhD materials with you, then you include those. And of course, things like a family first aid kit, any necessary medications, thinking about packing for the checked luggage and also for your hand luggage. I tend to use dissolvable tablets for pain relief for the kids for the flight. So I'm not taking liquids. I leave the liquids for the checked bags, and then that can be used at the destination. But just in case someone comes down unwell on the flight and needs some pain relief, in case somebody gets a temperature or anything like that, I've got the tablet ones for them, and that's for the older kids. For the infant, I tend to use the little pouches of infant pain relief, which can be just squirted directly into the mouth if needed. And so that's what we do. We just make it very practical, very, very basic, nothing complicated, and just thinking ahead. So things for the hand luggage, portable, dissolvable, or squirtable. So no special syringes or spoon or anything like that required. And then for the checked bags, you put the more substantial medications in there, and, your necessary measuring cups or spoons or whatever you need for that. And so it's really just trying to be as practical as possible. One other thing that is featured on this list is basically, and it's not one thing, a couple of things, but a change of clothes for every member of the family, including underwear, clean socks, change of clothes in the hand luggage. And the reason for that is just in case you've, encountered some kind of flight delay or unexpected overnight stay, or even somebody just being really unwell and sick on the plane and you need to have a full change of clothes. It has happened to us before. Just having that full change of clothes for everybody. Nobody wants to be sitting on a flight in soiled clothes for a prolonged period. And if you do have that unexpected overnight stay, and you already checked in your bags and the bags are staying at the airport, or for whatever reason the bags get lost, again, this has happened, at least you've got at least one full clean change of clothes. So that's something else that's also on that list as well. So yeah, an extra change of clothes for everybody inside the hand luggage. All of that is on the list. I forgot to mention, for that list, every item, I will have next to that item either hand luggage or checked baggage, and I'll have a little check box next to it. Some items will be required for both hand luggage and checked luggage. So for example, if you're traveling with a young infant who needs diapers or nappies, then you will want to put some of those in the hand luggage, and you will want to put some of those in the checked bags. And you don't want to have to remember that. You don't want to put it once on the list, put it in a checked bag, take it off, and then you've forgotten to add it to your hand luggage. So it's important that you put a little check box right next to it. Hand luggage, which I normally abbreviate as HB for hand baggage, and then checked baggage, CB, and then that's ticked off, so that when I'm packing those items and I just have, let's say for example, I've only packed it into the checked luggage, I will just tick that one off. So I know in my mind I've got to come back and add the hand luggage. So that's just a little practical tip for you. Write that list, keep that as a rolling list, and that then can grow along with you as the kids grow. You can adapt it and amend it, but also being really specific about what goes in the hand luggage, what goes in the check bags, and having a separate section for each person in the family really just makes it super, super easy, super, super practical. Okay, and so thinking about The other things to pack and to remember, things like your medical information, your doctor's information, all of this, obviously getting your travel insurance and packing those documents. These are all of the essential things to remember. And so now moving on to the logistics of managing traveling with kids. I think really it's about choosing family-friendly transportation options when you are traveling with kids. It's really important that you're mindful of the fact that you may be traveling with extra luggage, extra pushchairs, travel cots, or car seats and all these things. So you really want to make sure that your transportation options are child friendly. For example, if you are traveling by taxi to an airport or wherever you are going to, you might want to think about a car seat in advance. You might want to think about the extra space required for the things like the pushchair or travel cot. And so it's really important. These are things that you can easily travel with for free if you're traveling by plane, but you still need to get to the airport with them. And so it's thinking ahead and making sure that you've got those things in place. So one of the things that's really important, obviously recently we traveled home to Barbados, and so we didn't need to pay for accommodation because we stayed with family. But if you are traveling to a place where there isn't family and you are staying in some sort of hotel or Airbnb accommodation or something similar, you might want to think about making sure that you have kitchen facilities to not only save on the costs of purchasing meals and eating out, but also just the practicalities of being able to prepare any formula or any milk or any meals for the little one that you may need. One of the things that I really found quite helpful when we were traveling, especially as I mentioned, traveling locally within the UK, was we started using less hotels and started using more apartment hotels. So apart hotels, I think they call them. And the simple reason for that was the cost was about the same, but we had practical things like we had a kitchen, we had a fridge, we had a stove, we had a washing machine. And those were the things that really became quite handy when we needed to freshen up anything, when we needed to prepare breakfast. It just made our lives that much easier, especially because when our little ones, when the infants in the family needed a nap or something like that, we didn't have to be doing that out at a restaurant. We didn't have to be dealing with a cranky child who's tired and wants to go to bed. And so we were able to have our meals, have our dinner in our apartment, and allow the baby to sleep, and just made everybody's life that much easier. So just thinking about facilities, if it's a possibility when you're booking your accommodation to think ahead, think about what facilities are available that could make life that much easier. It also meant that we could be a lot more prepared to handle any spillages, any accidents, any sickness. And also, even if none of those things happened, it meant that we could go home with clean laundry and not have to go home to a pile of dirty laundry to then have chore upon chore on arrival at home. And then using kid-friendly apps and websites to find attractions and restaurants that are also kid-friendly, especially if you're traveling with really little ones, infants. You want to make sure that you're visiting places that have the facilities for breastfeeding if you're breastfeeding, or for baby changes if you need to change nappies, and just being around people who are not bothered by you traveling with kids. I was talking to somebody recently and they were saying to me that, they love traveling off peak because they really can't deal with people and their kids. And I'm like, but you're talking to somebody who has kids. So anyway, there's that. But what it made me realize was that there are actually people out there who don't really like traveling at peak times where there are lots of kids around, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting a quiet holiday. And for anyone who has kids, you can't guarantee that they were going to be quiet, and certainly not all the time, right? And so, just thinking about whether the places that you're going to are kids friendly, or they've got kid friendly, areas within them that you can do what you need to do with your kids, and just allow them to be kids, right? Just allow them to be kids. Nobody wants to be constantly telling kids, especially on holiday, oh, don't talk. You need to be silent. You need to be quiet, no noise. And let them be kids. Let them be kids. So just making sure that the places that you visit are kid friendly. It's that simple. Okay, so I know one of the things that we often struggle with as mamas is that we've got these routines, we've got our routines at home. And when we're traveling with kids, routines can go out of the window. And sometimes that's okay. Some kids don't mind that change, that more fluid structure. But some children really thrive on routine. And so it presents a challenge when you're traveling with kids who really want to have that routine, but that's not a possibility on holiday. So really just creating a loose daily plan, a loose structure that allows for both scheduled activities, but also rest, spontaneity, and just downtime. Just really allowing that flexibility and incorporating some quiet time for the kids may help as well to facilitate that little bit of calm and routine, but also that could double as time for you to get on with adult activities that you want to do, or some reading if you've got papers to read or something to do and you happen to have to do that while you're on holiday. That quiet time, incorporating that could help you to double up as time to get some work done. Not that I'm advocating that you work on holiday, because I definitely do not do that, but sometimes it's necessary. And if you do have to, or especially if you're traveling on a conference where it may be work-related travel, so you're not necessarily on holiday, but you've got to take the kids with you, incorporating that quiet time can allow you to have some work time as well. And really just, where possible, adapting bedtime routines to the new environment. So when we went to Barbados, of course, we had that period of jet lag, that time difference, and adjusting to that. And once we got into that new time zone and our bodies started to adjust after a couple of days, it really helped us to stick to the routine. So we weren't necessarily doing all the things that we would normally do at home at the same time, because obviously our bodies were definitely shifting to a new time zone, but we were having familiar activities at roughly around the same times, which allowed the kids to just easily settle into the new routine, allow the older ones to enjoy being up a bit later, but allow the little one to be able to settle into bedtime and without any resistance, without any challenge. And so adapting that bedtime routine to the new environment really helped us to maintain some structure, even though it was flexible enough. There were some days where we were out at that time and it wasn't, the usual bedtime routine. But on the days that we were able to maintain that routine, it was easy, it wasn't stressful, and he was able to settle down without any issues. And so just being flexible, but having that loose structure in place really helped us. So the other thing as well about traveling with kids is really using the opportunity to enrich the experience with educational experiences as well. So for example, visiting museums, visiting historical sites, visiting nature centers, visiting places of interest where the kids can learn about the local history and the local culture. For us in Barbados, every time we go there with the kids, we try and do different activities to allow them to be able to experience something new, because they've been to Barbados before. And so we wanted them to have a new experience. And this time around, we were able to take them to some new sites that we even haven't been to. I don't know if you know anything about Barbados, but if you have ever been there or you plan to go there in the future, then places like the Animal Flower Cave, we went there, which was amazing because I grew up in Barbados and I'd never been there. So that was really nice. And we also did the St. Nicholas's Abbey, which was really nice as well. This little train that gives you just a taste of what the local plantation train was like, but also some history as well about Barbados, the history of the country as well. And that was really, really nice for the boys. We totally enjoyed that. And so just visiting, local sites, making it educational. Yes, we had loads of trips to the beach and we had loads of visiting family and loads of other activities, but we also had opportunities for them to learn something new and experience something new. Also, things like participating in local cultural activities or workshops or activities as a family. Again, just really giving that flavor of the local experience and what people who live in that particular place do for food, for culture, for fun. And so just giving the kids a taste of that is also an educational and an enriching experience. And of course, all of this is supplementing their education, because it's not just about the formal education that our kids receive in school or at homeschool, but also that life experience and just allowing the holiday to be kind of part of that, right? Allowing it to be a part of that for them. So one of the other things that, especially for the flight, I know a lot of us as Scholarly Mamas, we are mindful of screen time and the amount of time that our kids may be on devices, but I am very much a fan of utilizing this technology when needed. And for example, on a long flight, it is definitely needed alongside other activities, of course, like taking books for them to read, or what we've always done is taken some kind of nude books or toys for them to play with that we've kept hidden until the flight, where we then do the big reveal of all these new little gadgets and toys, because it's brand new. Kids are totally engaged, especially when they're really little. Obviously that doesn't work with a teenager anymore, but it definitely works with a toddler. And so that's exactly what we did, but still utilizing technology as well. And we didn't have any problems with doing that within reason. And so really just thinking ahead of, apps that you may want to allow your kids to use on the flight that may require internet connection, sometimes downloading those in advance. When our kids were really little, we used to download particular shows that we don't know for sure if we're going to be able to access while we're on the flight. We download those beforehand so that we had them on the tablet, and then when they are on the plane and we can't access the internet, then we could still show their favorite show or their favorite app or their favorite game. And so just thinking ahead of that, especially if it's on a long haul flight. Our flight to Barbados was almost 9 hours. And so that's more than enough time for the kids to probably ask at least once for some kind of device. And so that's what we did. And of course, the entertainment on the flight, really making use of that, looking at the child-friendly shows and the child-friendly games that the kids can engage in on the flight was really important for us as well. One of the things that we realized was that we can play games together on the flight. Even though we were on different seats, we can play together. You just have to set it up. And we did that, and that was so much fun. We actually played various games together that way, and that was fun. My son set it up, and yeah, that was totally fun. So I guess the last couple of things to mention would be, how do you juggle academic responsibilities and family time when you're traveling with kids? I think really it's important. This is especially if you're planning to do any academic work while you're on holiday. Like I said, it wasn't my style and it wasn't my choice, but if you need to and if you have to do that, then really being realistic for the goals for the trip. Now, it is very tempting to want to pack the whole PhD, every possible paper that you've ever read, every possible paper that you plan to read on your to be read list for the trip. And it's just never going to happen. If you're really honest with yourself, there's no way that you're going to read all of these papers on this family holiday. And so just being realistic about the goals for the trip. Why are you taking this trip? You're actually taking this trip for a break, to give yourself a break. Do you really need to be bringing all of these papers to read? Do you really need to plan to do all this writing? Do you really need that right now? Or do you actually need a rest? Do you actually need a break from it all? So just think very carefully about what actually is the goal for this holiday. And if you absolutely have to what with work, if you have to what with things to read or things to write, be realistic about what is actually going to be achievable, because you don't want to create this situation where you feel guilty for doing one or the other. And, you know, the expectations are so unrealistic that you come back feeling even worse than before you left. So really being quite realistic and honest with yourself about what is achievable and what is needed on this trip. And if you do find yourself in a place where you do have to walk with work, you do have to take work on holiday, then just try and set some boundaries for what is going to be doable and what is going to happen on this trip, and communicate those needs to your family so they are aware, because everybody's going on holiday to relax and enjoy themselves, and they don't want to hear that you don't want to do any of the activities because you've got this and that to do. So being really honest with them about what your plans are before you go, maybe say, you know, there's 1 or 2 days where I'm going to lay low and get some work done, so that everybody knows what your intentions are. Everybody knows that, you know, what to expect of you when you're on that trip. And really involving the kids in the academic pursuits where appropriate, really involving the kids in some element of it, so they understand that you're not just not wanting to spend time with them, but you are taking this time to do a day or so of work on holiday, and just being really upfront about that. But if you ask me, I would say, if you can, if at all possible, leave the work at home. Like, go on holiday, enjoy your break, and don't think about it. Really give yourself the chance to rest and take a break from all of that. You've got plenty of weeks and months ahead to come back to the stress of all of this and the PhD and juggling everything. So if you can, give yourself a couple days of rest, a couple days of just taking a break without guilt. And the best way to do that is just leave the work at home. Don't even take it with you. But I do understand that that's not always feasible. And I know some people still need to do that. But if you can, you know, yeah, just give yourself that break. So there are loads of challenges that will still come up when you are traveling with kids, especially as a Scully mama. So how do you overcome some of those challenges? So one of those challenges is the guilt of working during a vacation. Like I said, working during this holiday will probably fill you with feelings of guilt. And I think one of the ways to manage that is to really set the expectation before you go. One of the things that really helped us with our family holiday recently was we had an agenda. We literally created an agenda, an itinerary, our own kind of family itinerary for what we were going to do on the holiday. I didn't do any work while we were on holiday, but if I had to do any, I would have been very clear in the upfront about, you know, which day I plan to do that, so that everybody knows. There are no surprises, right? And so just being really upfront about that. One of the other things that helps with, you know, managing this situation of having to work when you're on holiday is to prepare before you go on holiday for your holiday. Is it possible that you can do a little bit of extra work before you actually go on holiday, so that when you go on holiday, you can not have to carry that work with you? And by a little extra work, I don't mean burning the midnight oil and working yourself to the point of exhaustion, but is it possible to do 1 or 2 extra hours on a couple of days before you go on holiday, so that you can focus when you're on holiday of just really enjoying yourself and not having to think about work? You know, maybe that's a possibility. Also, handling travel disruptions or disappointments with kids. There's always that possibility of going on holiday and having flights cancelled or having someone get ill. We've had that so many times. And I think the important thing here is to stay calm, stay positive, put the contingency that you need to put in place, and realize that this is part of the experience. And this is something that your kids are going to be watching. They're going to be watching how you deal with this, watching how mommy or daddy deal with this disappointment or this disruption. And so it's really important to represent yourself well and show your kids that actually sometimes in life we make plans, things change, things come up, and it's okay. It's not the end of the world. There's always some way around it. So there's that. And then really staying connected with the people that you're on holiday with. Prioritizing this family time, really just making the most of it is so important, but it can be a challenge when your mind is still at work or in the research lab or in the analysis program. Like that mental load that we carry as scholarly mamas, such long to-do lists, so many things to get done and so little time, and that can really weigh on our minds, even when we are supposedly on holiday. It can be a challenge. And so really being present, like I said, putting the preparations in place for your holiday so that you don't feel the need to work while you're on holiday, recognizing that there will be plenty of time when you get back to come back to the task at hand. And so really being present, really enjoying that time with family is key to overcoming the challenge of not being present and your kids noticing that you are there in body but not in spirit. You don't want that. So it's really important that you focus on the being present, staying connected, really savoring the moments that you are having, savoring these moments, smelling the fresh air if you're able to get to a beach, really smelling the forest if you're able to go for long forest walks, enjoying the sunshine if you're in a sunny tropical place, just really savoring those little moments is so key, especially if you are traveling with your kids. And so really, I just wanted to share some practical tips for traveling with kids. We talked about the essentials when it comes to packing. We talked about managing travel logistics, like, choosing family-friendly transportation and family-friendly attractions and restaurants and all that. We talked about maintaining some kind of flexibility with the routine, but still having some kind of rough routine in place. We talked about using that trip to be an educational, enriching experience for the kids as well. We talked about using technology while traveling with kids, and that includes on the flight, but it also may include while you're actually in your destination as well. And we talked about juggling academic responsibilities and emotions, guilt and all that comes with how you may feel when you're juggling that and family time on holiday. And we talked about how you can overcome some of the common challenges that scholarly mamas may face when they are traveling with their kids. So I really wanted to share these tips with you as encouragement to prioritize family travel experiences. Really, don't feel guilty for taking a break, changing scenery and going on a holiday with your family, even if it's a local destination, even if it's something nearby. It's just an opportunity for everybody in the family to bond, to connect, to, prepare for the next chapter, whatever that might be. And if you have recently had a travel experience, if you've recently traveled with your kids, do share it. I'd love to hear your tips. If I've forgotten any, I'd love to hear them. And I'd love to hear your experiences. So until next time, Mama, I'm sending you lots of love and lots of gratitude. I hope you found this episode helpful. And the next time you're planning a trip, make sure you tune back into this episode. So until next time, lots of love and lots of gratitude. Take care, Mama. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and if you did and you want in on this movement, please head over to mrsmummyphd.com or scholarlymamas.com. If you want to do your PhD well without sacrificing yourself or those you love dearest, then you need your hands on my free training called the PhD with Purpose Webinar. When you join us inside Scholarly Mamas Explore, You'll get access to this free training and so much more. Remember, Mama, these are our journeys of becoming.